First contact. Commander Sarah Chen stared at the anomaly on her scanner, eyebrows furrowed in concentration. The UES Horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel, wasn't supposed to encounter anything in this sector. They were 3 months into their mission, charting the edges of known space in humanity's ever-expanding quest for knowledge. Daniels, confirm these readings, she called to her sensor officer. That signature doesn't match anything in our database. Lieutenant Daniels adjusted his instruments, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Confirmed, Commander. It's definitely artificial, but the energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered. And it's flickering. Sarah rose from her captain's chair, moving to the main view screen. The vast emptiness of space stared back at her, distant stars cold pinpricks of light against the void. Magnify Sector 7 Alpha. The screen shifted, and there it was. A vessel, if you could call it that, drifting listlessly through space. Its hull reflected no light from the distant sun. Instead, it seemed to absorb it, a shape of absolute darkness against the stars. Occasional pulses of cyan energy skittered across its surface like lightning. Life signs, she asked, already knowing the protocol. First Contact Directive 7 was clear. Observe, report, but do not engage unless authorized by Fleet Command. Inconclusive, Daniels replied. But the ship appears to be in distress. We're detecting hull breaches and minimal power output. Sarah felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. Fleet Command was 3 weeks away by quantum relay. By then, whoever was aboard that vessel would likely be dead. Helmsman, bring us within 1,000 kilometers. Maintain defensive posture. She turned to her XO. Commander Rodriguez, prepare a boarding party. Full containment protocols. Rodriguez hesitated. Commander, regulations state. I know what regulations state, Commander. Sarah cut him off. But I didn't join the exploratory service to watch sentient beings die when we could help. We'll face the consequences when we get home. 30 minutes later, Sarah stood in the airlock chamber, sealed in an exosuit, her breath fogging the visor slightly. Rodriguez and 3 security officers flanked her, armed with standard-issue pulse rifles. Remember, she said through the comm, this is a rescue mission. Weapons tight unless we face immediate threat. The shuttle journey to the alien vessel was tense and silent. As they approached, the true scale of the ship became apparent, nearly twice the size of the Horizon, with an organic, almost insectoid design. The boarding team attached their shuttle to what appeared to be an emergency airlock, the magnetic clamps engaging with a solid thunk. Atmosphere reading shows oxygen-nitrogen mix, Rodriguez reported. Slightly higher oxygen content than Earth standard, but within safe parameters. Keep your helmets sealed anyway, Sarah ordered. We don't know what biological contaminants might be present. The airlock cycled, and they entered a corridor bathed in dim emergency lighting. The architecture was strange. Curved walls with ribbed supports that almost seemed to pulse, as if the ship itself were alive and breathing. Movement ahead, one of the security officers whispered. Sarah raised a hand, signaling the team to halt. From the shadows ahead, a figure emerged, staggering against the wall for support. The being was tall, at least 7 feet, with a muscular build covered in iridescent scales that shifted from emerald to sapphire depending on how the light hit them. Its face was reptilian, with striking amber eyes that held an unmistakable intelligence. A dark fluid, blood, Sarah assumed, seeped from a wound in its side. The alien's eyes locked onto Sarah's. It spoke, its voice a harmonious rumble that somehow conveyed both strength and desperation. Help, others, please. Then it collapsed. Sarah was the first to move, medical scanner already in hand as she knelt beside the fallen alien. Still alive, she reported. Rodriguez, help me stabilize this one. Johnson, Pottle. Sweep forward, find the others. Commander, Rodriguez protested, even as he applied a universal coagulant patch to the wound, This is beyond protocol. We should. Note your objection in the log, Commander, Sarah said firmly. But I'm not leaving intelligent beings to die when we can help them. The alien vessel, they soon discovered, was a refugee ship. In its hold, they found 27 survivors, males, females, and what appeared to be juveniles of the same species. Many were injured, and all showed signs of malnourishment. Their technology was clearly advanced, possibly beyond Earth's capabilities, but something had gone catastrophically wrong with their life support systems. Hours later, back aboard the Horizon, Sarah stood in the makeshift medical bay they'd established in one of the cargo holds. The alien who had first greeted them was conscious again, propped up on a bed adapted to accommodate his large frame. "I am Talon," he said, his voice now translated through a device his people had provided. "Speaker for the Veldari remnant. You have saved us when you had no obligation to do so." "I'm Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Exploratory Service," she replied. "Helping those in need is what we do." Talon's scaled brow ridge shifted in what might have been an expression of curiosity. "Earth, we have not encountered your kind before. You are not part of the Galactic Concord." Sarah shook her head. "We're relatively new to deep space travel. This mission is to chart unknown regions, make peaceful contact with other civilizations if possible. Then we are fortunate beyond measure that you found us," Talon said. His amber eyes darkened. "We are refugees, Commander. The last survivors of Veldar Prime. What happened to your world?" Sarah asked, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew the answer. "The Krill Empire happened," Talon said, a low hiss escaping between sharp teeth. "They came to our system 3 cycles ago, demanding our submission and resources. When we refused," he looked away. "Their armada reduced our cities to ash. Those of us who could fled, but they hunt us still. We thought we had escaped, but our ship was damaged in an ambush at the edge of the Nyx Nebula." Sarah absorbed this information, her mind racing with implications. Earth had no official contact with any interstellar civilization, let alone knowledge of empires and wars being waged among the stars. "How many of these Krill are there?" she asked. "Billions, across hundreds of worlds," Talon replied. "Their empire spans 3 spiral arms. They are a collective consciousness, linked through neural implants. Highly advanced, utterly ruthless." Chief Medical Officer Patel approached, interrupting their conversation. "Commander, I've completed preliminary examinations of our guests. Their physiologies are fascinating. Reptilian base with some avian characteristics. They're warm-blooded, with remarkable regenerative capabilities. The injuries that would be fatal to humans seem to be healing at an accelerated rate." "Will they recover?" Sarah asked. "I believe so, yes," Patel nodded, "though they need proper nutrition. Their food synthesizers were damaged, and they've been surviving on emergency rations that aren't meeting their metabolic needs." Sarah turned back to Talon. "We'll provide whatever assistance we can. Our ship wasn't designed as a passenger vessel, but we can accommodate your people temporarily." Talon's scaled hand reached out, grasping Sarah's forearm, in what she assumed was a gesture of gratitude. "You offer sanctuary when many would turn away. The Veldari will not forget this kindness." As Sarah left the medical bay, Rodriguez fell into step beside her in the corridor. "Commander, we need to discuss next steps. These refugees can't stay aboard indefinitely, and if what they're saying about this Krill Empire is true." "I know," Sarah said, cutting him off. "We're potentially involving Earth in something far bigger than our mission parameters. But what was I supposed to do, Rodriguez? Leave them to die?" "No, Commander," Rodriguez conceded. "I would have done the same, but Fleet Command will want answers." Sarah stopped at the viewport, gazing out at the stars. Somewhere out there was an empire that had destroyed the Veldari homeworld, hunting down survivors with ruthless efficiency. "Prepare a full report for quantum relay to Earth," she ordered. "Include all data we've gathered on the Veldari and what they've told us about the Krill. Request instructions." She paused. and inform Command that I take full responsibility for breaking protocol." "Yes, Commander," Rodriguez said. "And if I may, I think you made the right call." Sarah watched as a medical technician led a young Veldari child past them, the small reptilian being staring wide-eyed at the human ship. "I hope so, Rodriguez, because I think we just changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever." That night, unable to sleep, Sarah reviewed the sensor logs from when they'd first encountered the Veldari vessel. Something had been bothering her, a detail just beyond her grasp. And then she saw it, a faint energy trace, nearly masked by background radiation. Something had followed the Veldari ship. "Computer, analyze this signature and compare to known propulsion systems," she ordered. "No match in database," the AI responded. "However, energy pattern shares characteristics with the damaged Veldari vessel." Sarah felt her blood run cold. If their damaged ship had been followed. "Bridge, this is Commander Chen. Sound General Quarters. I want continuous sensor sweeps of the surrounding space. Maximum range." As the alert klaxons began to sound, Sarah knew the peaceful exploration mission she trained for had just become something very different. Humanity had unwittingly stepped onto a much larger stage, and their first performance might well be a fight for survival. Sanctuary Earth. The UES horizon dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Sol system, its hull showing scorch marks from the firefight 3 weeks earlier. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, dark circles under her eyes testament to the sleepless nights spent evading the Krill scout ship that had tracked the Veldari refugees. They'd managed to destroy the pursuer in a desperate battle near the Horsehead Nebula, but not before it had transmitted a signal toward the heart of Krill territory. Multiple vessels approaching, Lieutenant Daniels reported from his station. "Earth Defense Fleet configurations. They're hailing us." "On screen," Sarah ordered, straightening her uniform. Admiral Winter's stern face appeared on the view screen, his bushy white eyebrows drawn together in a frown. "Commander Chen, you've caused quite the stir back home. Breaking first contact protocols, engaging in combat with an unknown alien force, and now you bring refugees directly to Earth. The Security Council has been in emergency session for days." "Admiral," Sarah acknowledged with a respectful nod. "I assume you received our transmissions about the Krill Empire." "We did," Winters confirmed, his expression grave. "That's the only reason you're not being court-martialed immediately. Report to Lunar Command as soon as you dock. Your guests will be accommodated at the Ganymede Diplomatic Facility until we determine next steps." 3 days later, Sarah found herself in a sterile conference room overlooking the gray lunar landscape. Around the table sat representatives from the United Earth government, military leaders, and scientists. Talon, as speaker for the Veldari, had been permitted to join them, his tall form dwarfing the human-sized chair he perched uncomfortably upon. "Let me be clear," Defense Minister Cheng said, fixing Talon with a penetrating stare. "While we sympathize with your people's plight, Earth cannot afford to become embroiled in an interstellar conflict we know nothing about. Our spacefaring capabilities are in their infancy compared to what you've described." Talon's amber eyes remained steady. "Minister, I understand your caution. But whether you wish it or not, humanity is now known to the Krill. The scout vessel Commander Chen's ship destroyed would have transmitted data back to the collective. They know about Earth now. And we're supposed to take your word for this," General Okonkwo challenged. "For all we know, you could be fugitives, criminals seeking asylum under false pretenses." Sarah intervened. "With respect, General, I've spent weeks with the Veldari. Their ship contained families, children. The damage we observed was consistent with their account of fleeing persecution." Science Director Harper tapped her tablet, projecting a hologram of the Veldari ship's technology. "The technological evidence supports their claims as well. Their propulsion systems, materials science, and biotechnology are centuries beyond our own development. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so easily." The debate continued for hours with opinions divided. Some argued for immediately bolstering Earth's defenses and sending the Veldari away to avoid provoking the Krill. Others recognized the potential value of an alliance with the technologically advanced refugees. Finally, UEG President Roslin, who had been silently observing the proceedings, raised her hand for silence. "Speaker Talon, if what you say is true, how long before the Krill might reach Earth?" Talon considered this. "Their nearest major fleet was in the Cygnus Arm when we fled. If they dispatch forces immediately upon learning of your existence, perhaps 1 Earth year, less if they consider you a significant threat." A murmur ran through the room. A year was barely enough time to prepare for a confrontation with a vastly superior force. "And what exactly do the Krill want?" President Roslin pressed. "Territory, resources, conformity," Talon replied simply. "The Krill are a hive consciousness. Individual thought is anathema to them. They seek to incorporate or eliminate all sentient life they encounter. Those who resist are destroyed. Those who submit have their neural architecture rewired to join the collective." A heavy silence fell over the room. "Thank you for your candor," President Roslin said finally. "This council will deliberate and reach a decision within 48 hours. Until then, you will continue to be our honored guests." As the meeting adjourned, Sarah accompanied Talon back to his temporary quarters. The lunar base had been modified to accommodate the Veldari's environmental needs, with higher oxygen levels and elevated temperatures. "Your leaders fear making an enemy of the Krill," Talon observed as they walked. "It is a rational fear." Sarah nodded. "We've only recently unified our own planet after centuries of conflict. The idea of facing an interstellar empire is daunting." "Yet you did not hesitate to save us," Talon said, studying her with those intelligent amber eyes. "Why?" Sarah considered the question. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because I believe that's what humanity should stand for. Helping others when we can, standing against bullies when we must." Talon made a sound that Sarah had come to recognize as laughter. "You humans are fascinating contradictions. So physically fragile, yet morally stubborn. So technologically primitive, yet boldly innovative." He paused. "Many species we encountered before the fall of our world would have calculated the odds and left us to our fate. Then they weren't worth knowing." Sarah replied simply. 2 days later, the decision came down. Earth would offer sanctuary to the Veldari refugees, and in exchange, the Veldari would share their technology to help prepare Earth's defenses for the potential Krill response. A joint human-Veldari defense initiative would be established immediately. The weeks that followed were a flurry of activity. The Veldari, grateful for Earth's protection, worked tirelessly alongside human scientists and engineers. Their advanced knowledge of quantum mechanics, material science, and biotechnology proved invaluable, though translating their concepts into terms humans could understand and implement posed significant challenges. Sarah found herself appointed as the military liaison to the Veldari delegation, a position that kept her in regular contact with Talon. Over late-night strategy sessions and technological briefings, an unusual friendship formed between the human commander and the alien diplomat. "Your species adapts remarkably quickly," Talon observed one evening as they reviewed progress on upgrading Earth's orbital defense platforms. "What took the Veldari generations to develop, you're integrating into your systems in months." "Necessity is a powerful motivator," Sarah replied, studying the schematics. "And we're building on your knowledge rather than starting from scratch." "There's more to it than that," Talon insisted. "The Krill's greatest weakness is their uniformity of thought. They cannot comprehend approaches that deviate from their established patterns. Humans, however, you thrive on unconventional solutions." 6 months into the preparations, the first long-range sensors detected what everyone had been dreading. A Krill scout flotilla had entered the outer Sol system. Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet moved to intercept, now equipped with modified Veldari shields and weapon systems. The ensuing battle was brief but decisive. The Krill, clearly not expecting significant resistance from what their intelligence suggested was a primitive world, lost 3 vessels before retreating. Earth had its first victory, but at a cost. 2 defense ships destroyed, hundreds of lives lost. In the aftermath, as Sarah stood in the memorial service for the fallen, Talon approached her, his normally vibrant scales dulled with what she now recognized as an expression of sorrow. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. "The scouts will report back. Next time, they will send warships." Sarah nodded grimly. "We knew what we were signing up for." "Did you?" Talon asked. "Your people had no quarrel with the Krill before we arrived. You could have turned us away, bought yourselves years, perhaps decades before they turned their attention to Earth, and lived with the knowledge that we abandoned your people to genocide." Sarah shook her head. "That's not who we want to be, Talon. Maybe we're naive, maybe we're foolish, but humanity has spent too much of its history looking the other way when atrocities happened. Not this time." Talon placed a scaled hand on her shoulder, an unusually intimate gesture for the normally reserved Veldari. "Then perhaps there is hope for the galaxy yet, Commander Chen. For if humans are willing to stand against the Krill when far more advanced civilizations have fallen or fled, you are either the bravest species we have encountered or the most foolhardy." Sarah managed a smile. "Probably both." Later that night, in an emergency session of the United Earth Council, the decision was made. Earth would not simply wait for the Krill to return in force. Instead, they would take the fight to the enemy. The Veldari have provided coordinates for critical Krill supply depots and communication hubs in nearby systems. Admiral Winters explained to the assembled leaders. Small strike teams using modified stealth technology could disrupt their operations, buying us time to strengthen our defenses. "And what do our Veldari allies think of this plan?" President Roslin asked. All eyes turned to Talon, who stood at the back of the chamber. "They made that decision when they sent ships into our system," General Okonkwo countered. "We're just acknowledging the reality." As the plans were finalized and strike teams assembled, Sarah found herself assigned to lead the most critical mission, a raid on the primary Krill communication hub in the Proxima Centauri system. The success or failure of her team could determine how quickly the Krill could mass their full invasion force. The night before departure, she found Talon in the observatory dome, staring up at the stars. "You should be resting, Commander," he said without turning. "Tomorrow's mission will require all your faculties." "So should you," she countered, moving to stand beside him. "Yet here we are." They stood in companionable silence for a moment. "I never asked you," Sarah said finally. "Why did your ship come to this sector of space? There are many places you could have fled that would have been farther from Krill territory." Talon's gaze remained fixed on the stars. An ancient Veldari prophecy speaks of a young species, fierce in defense of their ideals, who would rise when the darkness threatened to engulf all independent thought in the galaxy. His amber eyes shifted to her. "My grandmother was a seer. Before our world fell, she told me to seek the star you call Soul." Sarah's eyebrows rose in surprise. "You're saying you came here deliberately, based on a prophecy? It sounds absurd to your scientific mind." "I know," Talon acknowledged. "Yet here we are, the last free Veldari, finding refuge with a species brave enough or foolish enough to stand against the Krill when all others have fallen. And if we fail?" Sarah asked quietly. "Then the light of free thought in this galaxy dims further," Talon replied. "But having known humans, even briefly, I do not believe you will fail. You may not triumph as you hope, but you will never submit. That alone gives me hope." As the first rays of Earth's sun broke over the lunar horizon, Sarah Chen prepared to lead humanity's first strike against the Krill Empire. Whatever the outcome, Earth had taken its stand among the stars, not as conquerors or isolationists, but as defenders of the right of all beings to determine their own destiny. Preparing for war, the stealth corvette Artemis slipped through the darkness of space, its revolutionary hull absorbing, rather than reflecting sensor suites. Commander Sarah Chen sat in the captain's chair, monitoring the approach to the Krill communication hub orbiting Proxima Centauri. Beside her, Talon studied the tactical display, his scaled fingers occasionally adjusting parameters. Their patrol pattern is unchanged, the Veldari observed. The Krill are nothing if not predictable. Sarah nodded. That's what we're counting on. Teams, final equipment check. We breach in 15 minutes. The insertion went exactly as planned, perhaps too perfectly. The human Veldari strike team boarded the massive Krill station through a maintenance airlock, neutralizing the few guards they encountered with non-lethal nerve disruptors. "This feels wrong," Lieutenant Park whispered as they approached the central communication node. "Where are all the defenders?" "The Krill don't waste resources where they don't anticipate threats," Talon explained. This far from the front lines, they rely on automated systems. They had reached the central processor room without incident. As the tech team began installing the virus designed to corrupt the Krill coordination network, Sarah felt a growing unease. Years of combat experience had taught her to trust her instincts. "Work faster," she ordered. "I think we've been." The lights shifted to a pulsing crimson, and an alarm began to sound. "Expected," she finished grimly. Talon's head jerked up, amber eyes widening. "This is not standard Krill procedure. They should have flooded the chamber with nerve agents immediately upon detection." "They want us alive," Sarah realized. "Fall back to extraction point. Rodriguez is the virus uploaded." 60 seconds more. "Commander, you have 30, she snapped, taking up a defensive position at the entrance. "Everyone else, prepare for immediate evac." The first Krill soldiers appeared at the far end of the corridor, humanoid in basic shape, but with an unsettling uniformity to their movements. Their armor was sleek, black, with pulsing blue circuitry visible beneath translucent plates. Where faces should have been, smooth reflective helmets showed only the observer's own frightened expressions. "Virus deployed," Rodriguez called. "Move out," Sarah ordered, laying down covering fire. The Krill advanced methodically, their movements perfectly synchronized, like components of a single organism rather than individual soldiers. The strike team fought their way back to the airlock, suffering casualties but managing to extract most of their personnel. As Sarah, the last to board, sealed the airlock behind her, she caught a glimpse of the Krill soldiers stopping their pursuit, standing motionless in perfect formation. "They could have caught us," she said as the Artemis detached from the station. They were holding back. A concerning deviation from known behavior patterns, Talon agreed. The Krill are adapting. When they returned to Earth, the mission was hailed as a success. The virus had temporarily fragmented Krill communications across 3 sectors, potentially delaying their main assault by months. But in her debriefing, Sarah emphasized the troubling change in Krill tactics. "They're studying us," she explained to the Joint Defense Council. "Previous encounters with the Krill suggest they overwhelmed through superior numbers and technology, not strategy. Now they're gathering intelligence, learning our methods. All the more reason to press our advantage while the virus disrupts their coordination," General Okonkwo argued. "We've planned simultaneous strikes on their supply chains while they're vulnerable." Science Director Harper raised a cautionary hand. "The Krill neural network is adaptive. Our virus won't work a second time, and they'll have countermeasures for similar attacks." "Then we don't repeat ourselves," Sarah said firmly. "Each strike uses different methods, different approaches. If the Krill's weakness is their uniformity of thought, our strength must be unpredictability." In the months that followed, humanity's guerrilla campaign against the Krill continued. Each mission utilized different tactics, from electromagnetic pulse weapons that temporarily severed the Krill's neural links to infiltration operations that turned the Krill's own automated systems against them. Earth's forces suffered losses, but the Krill advance toward Sol was significantly delayed. Meanwhile, on Earth, the integration of Veldari technology transformed human capabilities at an unprecedented rate. Civilian industries were converted to military production, turning out hybrid human Veldari weapons and defenses. The Ganymede shipyards worked around the clock, constructing vessels that combined Earth's robust, adaptable designs with Veldari energy systems and materials science. Sarah found herself at the center of it all, her experience with both Veldari culture and Krill tactics making her an invaluable coordinator. The toll of constant planning, fighting, and losing people under her command weighed heavily, but she drove herself relentlessly, knowing what failure would mean. One evening, as she reviewed plans for the defense of Earth's outer colonies, Talon found her alone in the Strategic Command Center. "You haven't rested in 3 days," he observed, placing a steaming cup beside her. Sarah glanced at the cup suspiciously. "What's this?" "A Veldari calming tea. It will help clear your mind without dulling your senses." He settled his large frame into a chair beside her. "You cannot defeat the Krill through exhaustion, Commander." Sarah sighed, taking the cup. The liquid was amber, with an aroma like cinnamon and something alien but not unpleasant. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the faces of the people we've lost, the colonies we couldn't save. A commander who doesn't feel such losses would not be worth following," Talon said gently. "But a commander who allows those losses to cloud judgment puts more lives at risk." She sipped the tea, surprised by its pleasant warmth that seemed to spread through her limbs. "The Krill are adapting faster than we anticipated. Their latest attacks show they're learning to counter our unpredictability." "Yes," Talon agreed, "but they still cannot truly understand it. To the Krill, chaos is abhorrent. They can observe patterns in seeming randomness and counter specific tactics, but the fundamental human capacity for creative problem-solving remains beyond them." Sarah studied the Veldari thoughtfully. Over the past year, Talon had become more than an ally, a trusted friend, a confidant. The initial alienness of his reptilian features had faded in her perception, replaced by recognition of the expressive nuances in his scaled face, the wisdom in his ancient eyes. "Tell me honestly," she said, setting down the cup. "Do you believe we can win this war?" Talon's gaze met hers directly. "Not in the way you might hope. The Krill Empire spans hundreds of worlds. Their resources dwarf those of Earth and the Veldari remnant combined." He leaned forward. "But survival, maintaining your independence. Yes, that I believe possible, even likely." "How?" "Because in all their millennia of expansion, the Krill have never encountered a species quite like humans." Talon's mouth curved in what Sarah had learned was a smile. The Veldari were technologically superior, but ultimately predictable. Other species had unique advantages but fixed patterns of behavior. Humans, though, you are a contradiction. The Krill cannot resolve. Before Sarah could respond, an emergency alert sounded. Lieutenant Daniel's voice came over the comm. "Commander Chen, Speaker Talon, report to Central Command immediately. Long-range sensors have detected a major Krill fleet formation on direct course for Sol. Estimated arrival: 72 hours. The tea forgotten, Sarah was already on her feet. So much for our delaying tactics. Talon followed her toward the door, or evidence of their success. The Krill would not commit their main battle fleet unless they felt truly threatened. In the command center, holographic displays showed the approaching Krill armada, over 300 vessels ranging from scout ships to massive dreadnoughts, organized in their characteristic geometric formation. "They've adapted to our disruption of their communication network," Admiral Winters noted grimly. "This is a fully coordinated assault. Our outer defense line can't withstand a force that size," General Okonkwo stated flatly. "Even with the Veldari shield enhancements." President Roslin, her face lined with the stress of leading during humanity's greatest crisis, asked the question everyone dreaded. How long can Earth itself hold out against this fleet? Science Director Harper consulted her data. With current defenses, perhaps 2 weeks of sustained assault before orbital platforms fail. After that, they could begin surface operations within days. A heavy silence fell over the room. "Then we don't let them reach Earth," Sarah said finally, studying the holographic display. All eyes turned to her. Commander, Winters prompted. Sarah manipulated the display, highlighting a region of space near Jupiter. We can't match their numbers or raw firepower, but we don't have to. She expanded the view to show Jupiter's complex gravitational relationship with its moons. The krill formations rely on perfect synchronization. Their neural network allows them to operate their ships in precise, interlocking patterns that maximize offensive and defensive capabilities. Talon nodded slowly, seeing where she was heading. But that synchronization requires perfect environmental conditions. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. What happens to that perfect formation when it encounters unpredictable gravitational fluctuations? Director Harper, if we detonate synchronized antimatter charges at these coordinates in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Harper's fingers flew across her console, running simulations. Her eyes widened. It would create a cascading series of gravitational waves through this entire sector. Navigational systems would need constant manual adjustment, which the krill don't do, Talon added. Their ships are extensions of their collective consciousness, operating on programmed parameters with minimal individual input. General Okonkwo looked skeptical. You want to use Jupiter as a weapon. I want to use chaos as a weapon, Sarah corrected. The same chaos that defines humanity and confounds the krill. We position our fleet here. She indicated a seemingly random pattern near Europa. In the eye of the gravitational storm, our pilots can navigate it because they expect unpredictability. The krill will be forced to break formation, becoming vulnerable to targeted strikes. Admiral Winters stroked his chin thoughtfully. It's risky. If those gravitational calculations are off by even a fraction, our own fleet could be torn apart. It's the only advantage we have, Sarah insisted. The krill expect us to make a conventional stand at Earth's orbit, where they can overwhelm us with superior numbers and firepower. They don't expect us to weaponize unpredictability itself. As the debate continued, Talon moved to stand beside Sarah. An audacious plan, he murmured, using a gas giant's gravitational field as a strategic element. No Veldari commander would have conceived such an approach. Is that a compliment or a criticism? Sarah asked quietly. An observation, Talon replied. And perhaps hope. After hours of debate and refinement, the Jupiter Defense Initiative was approved. Every available ship was mobilized. Earth,